I am going to turn the program over to your host, the current CALLERLAB chairman of the board. Please give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Ken Ratusi. I will have Ken turn his video on now, and he will start our program off.
Today we have a fun-packed afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you are. So we're going to get right into it. But before we do that, as of yesterday, the count for the different countries was we have representatives here from Australia, Austria, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, Germany, Japan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and the United States. And if we missed anyone, we apologize. So we welcome everybody. Well, we're going to have a keynote speaker come up in a few minutes, Mr. Mike Seastrom, and I'd like to introduce him with a little bio, if you don't mind. Mike Seastrom has been dancing since 1960. He's been calling since 1963. He started dancing after losing a bet to his mother and calling when he tried to show his 6th grade teacher what square dancing was really like. He taught his first class in 1963 after borrowing money from his folks to buy a small sound system and was able to pay them back before the class was over. After receiving his doctorate in 1976, Mike joined CALLERLAB in 1977, has been chairman of several committees, as well as an annual presenter for intersessions and seminars at CALLERLAB conventions. Mike served on the Board of Governors from 1984 to 2003 and has completed a 2-year term as the CALLERLAB chairman of the board in 1994. He was also awarded the Milestone Award in 2001 by 2 of his mentors, Bob Van Antwerp and Bob Osgood. He submits the monthly CALLERLAB Viewpoint articles to American Square Dance magazine, and his articles have been appeared in various publications around the world. Mike teaches, calls basic through C1, prompts contras, and also enjoys doing dance party events when his schedule allows it. He is a strong advocate for the multi-cycle method of teaching new dancers and enjoyed a very successful program with the Valley Trailers Square Dance Club in California. Mike currently teaches for the Buckles and Bows. Mike records for Rhythm Records, regularly does caller clinics, and helped produce an introduction to Contra Dance package for R&R video with the California Contra Callers Association. He has traveled extensively around the world to Canada, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, Costa Rica, New Zealand, Australia, and Japan. Mike loves to dance and still feels that dancing as a team of 8 is the best recreation in the world. Mike is currently chairman of the Social Connections Committee. How about a round of applause for Mr. Mike Seastrom?
Hey, thanks, Ken. Wow. You know, it's nice to be here. And I'd like to welcome everybody. In the United States, it is National Joe Day. That means you can pick up a cup of coffee, have a cup of coffee with Joe, with Josephine, with Joanne. It's National Joe Day. It's also National Scribble Day. So we have a convention here. If any time during the convention you get this feeling like you'd love to just scribble, well, scribble on. You can even have a contest if you're with others and go ahead and scribble a little bit. Award prizes for the most colorful scribble, the most unique scribble. So it's National Scribble Day also in the United States. And for those of our friends, some of our friends are celebrating Passover. So for those friends, we happy Passover for you guys too, okay? It's interesting. We have all been through one of the most shocking, unprecedented, incredible times that any one of us have ever experienced. No dances, no classes, no festivals, canceled state and national conventions, and all the other social events that dancers have enjoyed for years. We've heard the cliche, we're all in this together. And the truth is that a great number of us have dealt with this pandemic individually. And for just a small group of family and friends that we call our bubble. Also, the people that live alone have dealt with this entire socially distant pandemic by themselves. The challenge is that most of our social ties reduced to a bare minimum has caused increases in depression and loneliness for many, many people. This year-long massive shifting of our gears has had a monumental effect on every single one of us. It's also made those of us that are in square and round dancing realize how rich social connections inherent in our dance have been for all of us over the years. Some years ago, one of our distinguished members let us know in no uncertain terms that we must change our point of view as callers. He said, dancers don't always come just to dance to us. They come to see their friends and socialize. He told his story about being frustrated trying to get people to square up at a dance. He said they were just sitting around talking with each other, and it was like pulling teeth to get them out of their seats. I know a little bit about pulling teeth. Bottom line is they came to see and socialize with each other and not just to dance with him. Dancing wasn't their first priority, and that's a pretty hard pill for callers to swallow. It tends to deflate our ego a little bit. Our mentor further emphasized that we must focus on the sociability in our activity and not the puzzle of our dance if we want to preserve this dance for future generations. That distinguished member I'm talking about is Jim Mayo. Jim spoke of the importance of sociability part of our activity in many Board of Governors meetings, past chairman committee meetings, and in articles that he wrote for many, many years. This pandemic has now made us see Jim's point very, very clearly. So Jim, I say thank you for your persistence and for making this sociability theme such a focus for us. The 2020 CALLERLAB convention near Reno, Nevada, canceled early in this pandemic, had as its theme, focus on social connections. That same theme was to be carried over to the 2021 convention in Dallas. And I believe that this theme has the momentum to carry over to our next live convention. Speaking of conventions, again, I'd like to say congratulations to the executive committee, the Board of Governors, the Home Office for being able to put together a virtual convention this year. I know this is kind of like making lemonade out of lemons, but the bottom line is that we're together, we're meeting here. And I know this last year has been a journey of amazing proportions for our CALLERLAB leadership. And I'm sure, Ken, you can attest to that. I compliment everybody that's been instrumental in making this event happen and for keeping the business of CALLERLAB going through this difficult time. You've shown great leadership. The Home Office staff, Teresa Berger, Dana and Donna Shermer, and Roy Stent, I thank you and I salute you. You guys are amazing. During the planning period for the 2020 convention in Nevada, I happened to be calling in Denver, Colorado. Lisa and I met with Bob and Alyn Riggs for lunch after calling for one of their groups. And I asked Bob how the executive committee meeting went because I knew he had just attended. He mentioned that they had formed a social connections committee and they were looking for a chairman. I couldn't resist. I volunteered for the position because I just had agreed to do an interest session on social connections with my wife, Lisa, and with caller cure couple, David and Don Me at the 2020 convention. And it just seemed like a natural fit. Later, I conned David into becoming the vice chairman. Well, as it turned out, Bob and Alyn Riggs' daughter, Christina Book, has a master's degree in experiential education. She also teaches character and leadership courses to cadets at the Air Force Academy. Now, experiential education, by simple definition, involves learning through action and involvement, which is basically how we teach square dancing. Christina grew up dancing, and I've learned through her that there's an entire science that it revolves around team building and social connections. Our Social Connections Committee is now focusing on increasing the understanding among callers, cuers, and dance leaders about their role and the opportunity we all have to expand and grow the sociability in our own groups and in other dancers and people we come into contact with. We're also committed as a committee to building a resource of ideas, encouraging social interaction that will be available on the CALLERLAB knowledge base. And speaking of the knowledge base, Barry Clasper, Dottie Welsh, Chris Jensen, and their crew deserve an enormous amount of praise for their work on the CALLERLAB knowledge base. What a phenomenal resource for our activity and its leaders. If you haven't tuned into the knowledge base, please do. It is just an amazing resource for all of us. Thank you. Thank you to everybody that's been involved with that. I had a life-impacting event that stimulated my interest in this topic of social connection and social interaction long before I volunteered for this committee. And the story goes like this. Some of you may have heard this story before, but I was flying back to Alabama to do a square dance weekend. And like most callers coming east from the West Coast, I had a midway connection. It's common for me to land in Dallas just about time for lunch. So I made my way to the closest and what looked like the fastest place that I could find to eat. There were a couple seats open at the bar just outside of a TGIF restaurant, so I stopped to catch a quick lunch. I sat down in the middle seat of the bar, and the bartender, who introduced himself as Jim, immediately gave me a menu and asked me my name and where I was from. Now, these are pretty easy questions and didn't require too much thinking, so I quickly said, "My name is Mike, and I'm from Los Angeles." The bartender, Jim, said, "Well, right next to you, Mike, is Bill. And he just flew in from Germany. And on your other side is Maggie, and Maggie just flew in from Michigan. Take a look at the menu and I'll be right back." Well, Maggie was busy talking to the lady next to her. So I turned to Jim and he immediately asked me, "Are you heading home or are you heading someplace else?" Well, I said I was heading to Alabama for the weekend, and he immediately asked me, "Why? Why are you heading to Alabama?" And I told him I was calling the Square Dance Festival, and his eyes opened really wide. And he said what many of us have heard before: "I haven't done that since grade school." Well, Jim, the bartender, just returned. He gave Bill his lunch. He took my order for a salad and some iced tea. And about that time, Maggie, sitting on the other side of me, jumped into the conversation. So as Maggie, Bill, and I continued our conversations about square dancing, Germany, and Michigan, I realized that all up and down the bar, everyone was talking and connecting with a bunch of fun and a ton of energy. All of this energy was engineered by one guy who had us all engaged with each other, with him, and having a great time. That lunchtime went amazingly fast, and I left feeling energized and thinking how much fun that lunch was. I'm sure Jim, the bartender, got some great tips too. I realized as I walked away to my gate that this one man had such a major impact on everyone's experience while having lunch. And I thought to myself how we as callers, cuers, and dance leaders have that same opportunity when we call or when we attend a dance or a club event. Just maybe learning some simple social skills like introducing people you know to others, bringing others into a conversation you're having by relaying something that you know about a person. Just some of the skills that we can learn to enhance social connections with those around us. Now, many callers I know are inherently shy. Think about this, and really have to work to get out of their shell, to greet people, to talk to people at their class or dance. And I know that we can all have our ups and downs and distractions and such, but these are social skills that many of us have had to work at and have tried to develop over the years. Most of us have our own style or have a style that's a mixture of what we've seen other callers and dance leaders do. It's something that most of us recognize and work at because we know that the interaction makes it fun for the dancers and it makes it fun for us. Another event that had a major impact on me occurred during and after a keynote address just like this. Ed Foote gave a keynote speech at an opening session of CALLERLAB convention, and that speech from then on changed how I approach calling and teaching. It changed how I look at calling. The key takeaways for me from Ed's speech was that we as callers have this amazing gift. And that gift, by just being a caller, is we have the ability to make others feel good about themselves. Let me repeat that. We have the ability to make others feel good about themselves. So whether we compliment a club officer, recognize another caller at our dance, or just playfully interact with dancers on the floor from our microphone, we have the ability to compliment and recognize someone and make them feel good about themselves. There's no finer feeling than to make someone else feel good about themselves. Think about being able to tell your kids how proud of them you are, or raise the spirits of your grandkids by telling them how great they are. Even a simple compliment like, "I love that t-shirt," or That's an amazing drawing. Can make them feel wonderful, and it makes you feel good too. Thank you, Ed, for changing my perspective, that CALLERLAB convention. And a big personal thank you to CALLERLAB for the first-class caller education you've provided for so many of us through the years. My batteries still get charged for the whole year when I attend a convention. Now we're going to cut a little bit here because we've been sitting for a little while. Now I'm going to give you a little exercise that you can do the entire convention, because this is a long time to sit in front of your computer. So I'm asking every one of you to stand up right now. Every one of you. Tony, that's you too. I know how you sit at a Zoom meeting. Vernon, Wadasan, stand up, away from the screen, give yourself a little bit of room, and breathe really deep. Put your arms in the air. Take a really deep breath and look up at the ceiling. And then bring those arms down and exhale. Once again, inhale, exhale. Put your arms out to the side, okay? Turn a little bit to the right. Check out the right. Turn a little bit to the left, all right? Check out your corner here on the left, all right? Stretch a little bit. Raise up. Smile. Make a face. Make a funny face. Act surprised. Once again, breathe really deep. Exhale. So a couple times today, stand up. Do that. Stretch a little bit. You'll feel a whole lot better. And besides, it's good for you. Now I'm going to try to share my screen, if at all possible. I think with that I've been made co-host, and we're going to pop up this. And let's see if we can make this slideshow go. All right. Now I think Sergeant of Arms let me know that we've got a screen here. I think we're okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask on this screen here, sociability in a COVID era. Let me just back you guys up just a little bit here. I'm clicking it. All right, girl. So, sociability in a COVID era, social connections, and our dance. So why is it important to have social connections? Because social connections improve physical health and mental health and emotional well-being. What's the biggest health issue in America beside COVID? And this goes back to before COVID with heart disease, cancer, diabetes. No, the biggest health issue in America, and even more so today because of this pandemic, is the effects of feeling lonely and socially disconnected. In 1980, 20% of the population in the US was polled to feeling lonely and socially disconnected. Today, that figure is more like 40%. And the pandemic, of course, has brought that on. What are the health benefits of social connections? Strong connections lead to a 50% increased chance of longevity. This is the Surgeon General who just stepped down. Strong social connections lead to 50% increase in chance of longevity. Also, social support is important for buffering effects of adverse events and stressful circumstances that happen in your life. Dancing is brain food. Dancing is brain food. People who dance frequently have 75% lower chance of dementia. To ward off dementia, you might guess that reading and doing crossword puzzles would be most effective. But in a study in the New England Journal of Medicine of nearly 500 people who danced frequently had 75% lower chance of dementia compared to people who didn't participate in any leisure activities. Filling out crossword puzzles, and that's at least 4 days a week, cut your chances by 47%. And reading by 35%. So dancing, 75% lower chance of dementia. Dancing is interval training. Regular dancing cuts the chances of dying of heart disease by 46%. This is the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. Interval training, you don't have to be on a machine or run on a track to get a workout. All you have to do is be engaging different muscle groups and just become slightly where you need to take a deep breath. Those short bursts of energy are just like an interval workout. Human beings are inherently social creatures. We know that. Social groups provide us with an important part of identity. They teach us the skills that help us live our lives. They teach us to interact with people, whether we meet those people walking by them or meet them in a grocery store or meet them at a dance. Belonging is an emotional need. I love this term, belongingness. It's being an accepted member of a group, and it's being something that's greater than ourselves. Belonging to social groups and networks is just as an important predictor in one's health as diet and exercise. Think of that. Belongingness is just as important as diet and exercise. That doesn't give you an excuse for the diet and the exercise part, but still, think about that. Social connection is understood as a core human need. It's essential to literally every aspect of our life and health and well-being. Connections. I love connections. Connectedness, that's another good one, has profound effects and both benefits society. When people feel connected with their communities, they're more inclined to participate in actions that help in the community, such as volunteering, taking pride in the condition of their community, and being engaged in the civic process. And what's the most important factor for happiness? Well, that's a question a lot of psychologists get asked. The best predictor of happiness is the quantity and the quality of a person's social ties. Now, I'm not talking about Facebook here, although for many of us, Facebook, Instagram, that way of connecting with others has helped us keep us connected through this pandemic. And very often we can keep contact with distant family members and people that are in faraway places. But the bottom line is that there's nothing like being right closely connected with people and that close physical contact like we have in square dancing. Can we improve physical and mental health in our communities? You bet. Our dance activity can help foster and build connections with people all around us. We really have a healthy activity for our communities. This final word cloud is something I never even knew the term word cloud, but it was in the invitation to our 2020 convention. And it was put together by Teresa Berger. And I just was fascinated by it because it puts all of these words out there, and I guess there's programs to do that. Anyway, good job, Teresa. I enjoyed that. And I've learned the new term word cloud now. The invitation that was sent out for the 47th CALLERLAB convention in 2020, it talked about this theme, focus on social connections. That invitation went on to say, square dancing is a community of dancers as well as recreational activity, and developing social relationships is an important part of if a community is to survive and thrive. During the convention, we will explore the critical roles that social interaction and relationships play in the success and growth of square dancing. The goal is to foster a wider understanding of the role and responsibility to strengthen sociability and to sustain participation in square dancing. And during that convention, it went on to say, we'll discuss how to actively develop, support, encourage, and participate in social interaction and relationships. There's a whole science about this. The theme of the convention is one of the many steps CALLERLAB is taking to focus on social connections in our activity. This convention theme and this keynote address is largely due to our highly decorated and prolific caller emeritus, Jim Mayo. I'd like to read an article, and I've read many of his articles and many of his books that Jim wrote. He wrote this and it appeared in a CALLERLAB Viewpoints section of American Square Dance magazine. It was written and published in the magazine long before this pandemic, and it's titled Our Gift to Society. I'm going to read some of that. We, modern Western square dancing, and that's a term that will come, we'll see how that is digested as our activity devolves. But modern Western square dancing, we have a wonderful gift for modern society. Over the last couple of years, I've become steadily more aware of our need for social interaction. Jim went on to say, I hear frequent mention of it in the media, and if you look, you can see signs of it all around you. People want to interact with each other, and today, the chances for that are shrinking. Our activity could offer one of the best opportunities for that interaction if we could stop making it more difficult. Club square dancing provided exactly that kind of social contact when it began after World War II, and we thrived because of it. Now, today, society is different, Jim said, but the need for people to do things together is perhaps even greater than it was 70 years ago. We could serve that need, and in some places we do. Unfortunately, many of today's square dance programs make it difficult to take part. Our choreography is much more challenging. Our social interaction has shrunk. Even dancing is less comfortable and learnable than it was. We've talked about this. We've even designed experimental programs that we hope will make us more accessible. Unfortunately, we've mostly ignored our most valuable asset. And that valuable asset, we, callers, and the remaining experienced dancers, keep thinking it's choreography. It's not. It's sociability. People want to meet. They want a place to meet and be involved with other people. The Square Dance Club is nearly perfect for that if we didn't make participating so difficult. Over the last 30 years or more, we've made a huge increase in the complexity of modern Western square dancing. Only if you can handle constantly changing dance routines are you welcome in our clubs. Even singing call routines don't repeat. The number of parties that clubs run has shrunk, and club management has also shrunk. It doesn't take as many board meetings to run a club as it used to. These meetings weren't necessary. They weren't necessary. They were social opportunities. We have clubs even today that are thriving and growing. And in many cases, they've made dancing easier and the social action, the interaction opportunities more available. There's even a quote that David Mee, my vice chairman, had said that his club is a social club that square dances. I like that. Jim finishes the article with this statement: modern Western square dancing could be a huge social interaction center if we would only just let it. Well, Jim, I couldn't agree more. We have an activity where participants must work as a team, and that physical contact as a team dancer, that touching increases our spirit of friendship and community just by its very nature. The spirit continues even when we're not dancing. When we stop dancing, we're talking with each other on the floor. There's also a great bit that Jerry Junk put in the college or the knowledge base. If you go there, he talked about resetting the chairs and the tables in his hall and what a difference it made in social interaction and just the way a dance event went. Read that if you get the chance. In the new dancer setting, the encouragement that is extended by our experienced dancers is a cooperative way of caring for others and supports the socialization in a really positive way. Most of our clubs and dance groups, when someone is sick, passes away, or needs help in some way, that support, that help from other dancers in the group is amazingly helpful. Many of our clubs volunteer for community events. They raise money for charities. They support other service groups in their area. It's been recognized for a long time now that another key to our happiness is getting outside of ourselves and helping others. Our dance groups have helped those in needs for many years. In the 60 plus years I've been involved in dancing, I've never seen a bigger opportunity to reboot and refocus how we lead and build this activity going forward. We're going to have some transition issues and this transition period before we fully return to some form of normalcy, and what that new norm will be is a bit of an unknown. It may take some time. It may take some help and leadership on our part during this transition. And it may take some time for some people just to willing to get out and be around other people outside their own bubble. And yet I'm excited about this dance activity of ours and its future. If we as leaders learn more ways to develop our social interaction abilities, we become skilled social ambassadors, better mentors, better teachers. We have the perfect activity to just offer what we need more of in our communities today. Think about that. Let's not miss this golden opportunity to help our activity continue to evolve and get back to focusing on what's kept most of us actively involved for years. I don't know about you, but I can hardly wait to see many of you again and to get back to dancing and calling once more. Welcome again to the first ever virtual CALLERLAB convention. And don't forget to stand up occasionally, breathe, stretch. It's okay to scribble. It's okay to have a cup of Joe. It's National Joe Day in the US. And stretch every once in a while. Stay well and have a great convention. Thank you, Ken.